Which Way Is Catering with Justine and Bruce, served up by Variety Attraction, celebrating 60 years of entertainment excellence.
The way it rolls off your tongue, it's just lovely.
Thank you.
It's so lovely.
So, Bruce, have you ever been in a parade? Any sort of parade. Have you been in a parade before?
Yes, I have.
And it was?
Cold.
No, which parade was it?
Christmas parade.
Oh.
Yeah, Christmas parade. Downtown Milwaukee. Waving.
What, were you like Santa?
Yes, and worked for a radio station. So, they put all the radio geeks in a car and put them in the parade. And I had clothes on, if that's where you're going.
That's where I'm going.
It would have been quite nippy that day.
It would have been chilly.
Yeah.
Well, and you were in the Harley parade, right? Didn't you ride your bike in the Harley parade?
Yes.
Again with clothes on?
Again with clothes on, because A, it's warm out. B, the bike is warm. C, is almost like riding naked on a barbecue grill. Today's show, Rod Essig from Creative Artists Agency, better known as CAA, in one of our favorite towns, Nashville, Tennessee.
I miss Nashville.
Our conversation with Rod today was very conversational. It was like we're in couches in Nashville, sitting in the Omni, because we were talking about some great things. His experience with Sonny and Cher, Jim Croce, Prince.
And what I love about Rod, too, is he's very down to earth and personable, and you can talk to him about anything. I have my backstage pass in a convenient spot to be signed.
Nice. On your elbow?
Nope. Look how bright red we are.
On Wisconsin.
Oh my gosh, we're like blinding.
Blinded by the light. Wracked up like a deuce.
All right, welcome to another episode of Which Way Is Catering with Justine and Bruce.
And today, from the great city of Nashville, we have Rod Essig from CAA, which is Creative Artists Agency. And Rod, welcome to the show.
I'm loving it. When you guys called, I said yes right away. Justine, you're way too young, but Bruce, you and I go back a lot of years, okay?
Well, that's a good way of starting it out.
Yeah.
They always say I have a face for radio, so this works out perfect for me.
Because it's audio only, right? We can see each other, but
So we're gonna jump right into it, Rod, and we know you're a great Midwestern boy, just like I am, and I know you grew up in Minneapolis, and I'm sure you got some great stories from the great Midwest, but why don't we start with that? I mean, what was it like, Minneapolis?
Well, first of all, Minneapolis is a big city. I grew up in a little farming area. My mom and dad were farmers and grew up in Sanborn, Minnesota. I had 11 kids in my graduating class.
oh wow.
So the bottom line is we had 11-man football. So there's 19 kids that went out for football from grades 9 through 12. So you had to be dead not to play on the football. And I'm one of the few guys that I go back and people laugh about it, but I remember playing offense, defense, and marching it with the band at halftime and going back and playing the second half of football.
And you were the head cheerleader.
So anyway, and then I just moved. I went to Westmar College. I had a vocal major. I was a singer and went there and have a music education degree. When I graduated out of there, I used to buy talent from Gordy Singer at Variety Artist in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And at that point, I got drafted. Most people don't remember the draft, but I graduated in 71 and my number was 30 in the draft. So on Christmas Eve, I had to report to Fort Leonard Wood for basic. So from May to December, I sang as a backup singer to Sonny and Cher.
Wow.
So now I'm Justine, you have to close your ears, but Bruce, you'll understand it. I'm 21 years old. I'm making a lot of money. I'm singing backup to Sonny and Cher, and all they're playing is Playboy clubs. And I'm going off to war. I had a great summer. I'll tell you that much. You may have to cut it out, but I drank a lot, got laid every night, and went on. And then I went to basic training. I went to Vietnam, and I was in the service for 14 months because 72 and 73, we were coming out of Vietnam. So then I came back and I called Gordy and I said, I want to be an agent. He said, oh, great. So he said, here, gave me a yellow pad. And he said, start making calls. Well, that was on a dial phone, And anyway, 6 months later, I signed a guy named Jim Croce, and then he died, but I just kept signing. And at that point, Variety was the largest college bookers. And way back in those days, all the big arenas were on college campuses. The cities did not have arenas. So like MTSU or University of Minnesota had the big thing. And then all the student activities only did concerts. There was no speakers, no videos, no intramurals or anything like that. So you were allowed to tour. So I happened to be on the road then in those days with Cornelius Brothers, Sister Rose, The Fifth Dimension, Johnny Cash. We'd buy and sell all these acts. Well, it just kept growing and growing and growing, and I kept signing acts. And so within about 5-6 years, the majority of the roster was my clients, of which one at our office was in Minneapolis was a guy named Prince. So I was the first agent that Prince ever had. So I remember sitting in a room with him alone. I remember painting First Avenue purple for Purple Rain.
Wow.
I remember all that
Very
stuff
cool.
in those days. And then 20 years later, or 18 years later, we moved the whole office of Variety to LA because we couldn't compete. And after a period of time, I just realized that Variety was only a touring entity, and our clients wanted motion picture, television, books. Whether they can do it or not doesn't matter. They want it available. So at that point, my dear friend was a guy named Bobby Brooks, and Bobby said, you need to come to CAA. So I met with Tom Ross, Bobby Brooks, and Rob Light. I went to CAA, and 3 days later, Bobby got killed in the helicopter crash with Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Oh.
So I worked a year there, and then Tom Ross said, we're going to open up an office in Nashville. You want to go down there? Ron Baird's down there. John Huey's moving there, and let's open an office. So we opened up Nashville with five acts and 3 agents, and on West End. And now we have 148 people in Nashville and have sports and rock and everything else out of Nashville. It just has grown and grown and grown. And so that's kind of the history. And I've been there. I'm going on my 29th year at CAA. So it's grown to an entity that's big in Nashville, and it's kind of been fun. It's been a great career. I'm not done, and people say, John Huey said, when are you going to retire? And I said, John, I'm never going to retire. I may tire, but I'm never going to retire.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to, because Justine and I are huge Prince. And we had a chance, we were in Minneapolis one time together, and, we had to get our picture at First Avenue and the whole thing. But what are some of your experiences with Prince?
Well, first of all, the day-to-day kind of guy that was really a friend was a guy named Terry Rindle. I don't know if you know Terry, but he's still an agent. But in the meantime, so Prince used to come in the office and be there day in and day out, and just would be there. And all of a sudden I said, Terry, we got to get this guy out of the office. He can't just be here all day long. Well, he was learning the business. And at that time, he had a backup group, which was Vanity 6, which they, in those days, came out with just bras and panties as his backup singer. Well, that was like horrible. I mean, that was everything.
Not for us.
And, totally. But then all of a sudden it came down to the same point. After about 6 or 7 years, he just said, I got to move. I'm moving everything to LA, And he moved to LA, and then we were let go at that point because we didn't have an office in LA. But Minneapolis had a really, in those days, every city had a scene. So Minneapolis had Prince, Lamont Cranston, Michael Johnson, Leo Kottke out of there. Same as Athens had all the kind of rockers out of there. And, and Seattle had their set of people. So it was just kind of like, and Macon, Georgia had the Allman Brothers and everything out of there. So everybody had, you grew out of your market. You just expanded. You always came back to your main core market. So that's kind of where Prince was at. But I remember those shows were pretty amazing. And I remember walking into Prince's house and having a meeting in a room, not one single thing in a room. And we sat on the floor and stared at each other. It was just kind of crazy. And, and he would, at that point, you could still call him Prince. It wasn't like whatever. So you could call him Prince, but we just sat there for an hour, talked about what he wanted. And then we went and did it. And the whole thing was about the Purple Rain. And it took a while to get approval to go paint First Avenue totally purple. But then Prince happened so big in Minneapolis that he started happening everywhere. But Minneapolis, we'd do 4 and 5 nights sold out at First Avenue.
So did you and Prince go to the Home Depot with kind of color swatches together to find out the right color of purple to paint?
No. The one thing with Prince is he knew everything he wanted to do. So he told you what to do. And that's what you did. That's what you did. I go back in my career, and there's a lot of people that have always done that I've represented: Prince, LeAnn Rimes, Tim McGraw, Taylor Swift. They all knew exactly who they were. They never walked in and said, I can do all this, I wanted this. They all knew who they were, and they told you what they wanted, and then you were to go and make all that dream so-called happen. And that's so cool when somebody walks in and knows who they are as an agent.
Do you find that when people do that, they're more successful down the road if they know exactly their vision? Yeah.
I hate when somebody walks in and it's a brand new artist and they go, she can sing everything, or he can sing everything. They can do Broadway, they can do jazz. I said, no. You need to leave now, take a year and figure out who you are and stay true to who you are. Music all goes in circles, it just goes in circles. So there's a time it was disco. Now it's electric music. It still is disc, but it goes at different timings. And I always love when people hit 60, 65, and then the whole young people find them and rediscover Bob Dylan, rediscover Styx, they go, oh my God, this band's so good. And you're going like, well, they've been playing for 30 years.
They've been good for 30 years.
Yeah. But they rediscover them, but they all stayed true to who they are.
So one of the names you brought up earlier on when you were doing the college scene was Jim Croce. What was he like?
Jim Croce was just starting, just a real Joe Blow guy. I mean, unbelievable. Just the nicest man in the world, and was just starting, and again, there was no Spotify, there was no internet, there was none of that. So you had to go build, go start playing clubs, and then build up to a bigger club, and then go play a little perform, and then everything was based on hits radio. That's it. You had to have hit radio to expand and grow. Where now you can happen on TikTok and you can happen on Spotify and all that kind of stuff. That didn't exist in those days. So it was really a lot of word of mouth and playing the really good rooms. I mean, I go back to a little town, Surf Ballroom in Iowa was always, if you can play the Surf Ballroom, that you kind of have started to make it, because they only brought in the people happening on radio,
So out of all the shows you've seen, what's been your favorite or most monumental of, because thousands upon thousands of shows, right? But what is the moment where you're standing in the room and you're like, oh shit, this is it. This is my favorite.
Oh, those are collaborations. Those are things that you do as an agent. I will tell you the one that I remember so incredibly. I did all the booking for the Andre Agassi Foundation in Las Vegas. So he'd bring in David Foster's an orchestra, but then he'd bring like Barbara Streisand and Celine Dion and Tim McGraw and Elton John, and they'd all be in the same show. They just sang 2 songs, and he'd raise millions of dollars, but he was on his prime. I remember I had Tim McGraw and Elton John there. And anyway, Elton said, I want, Tim was hotter than hell. Tim and Elton's always Elton, but in the meantime said, I want to do a duet with him. So they did Tiny Dancer, and Tim was so nervous. And yet Tim McGraw and great artists always rise to the occasion. It's like the same analogy. If you play with a better golfer, you always play better. Well, the same thing. And I remember that night on stage, Tiny Dancer, Tim and Elton, and Tim, I've never heard him sing better in my life. Well, he finally, he released it as a single after that. But still, those are kind of the evenings that you sit there and go, this will never happen again, because it won't. And so that was one of the things that an evening, there was another evening that I remember I do a thing, me and Ken Levitan, who is a very well-known manager down here. We do a thing for the Country Music Hall of Fame called All for the Hall. And it was set up originally, 1 year we do LA, 1 year we do New York. It was just to introduce people in those communities to what the Country Music Hall of Fame is. So the 1 year we had booked Chris Christopherson, Lionel Richie, Vince Gill, who I hosted, and Emmylou Harris and Taylor Swift. That's our 5. Now we sell 300 tickets. It's $1,000 a ticket. There's no press, zero. It's just, and the artists walk around and but they do a singer-songwriter. I remember going down the line, Vince doing his big song, and then next Emmylou doing another one, Taylor doing his. And I remember Lionel Richie does one of his incredible, every song he does is just like an anthem, and they go around, it gets to Chris Christopherson, and Chris starts talking. He says, well, I wrote this song and my manager would never talk to me. So he said, I'd call the office. He never talked to me. So I talked to his assistant all the time, So he said, this little girl put it out, was pretty successful, which turned out to be Janis Joplin. Nope. And anyway, so in the meantime, he goes, the song is Me and Bobby McGee. He wrote that talking to his manager's assistant. I still get goosebumps hearing that.
I love that.
Wow,
I'm telling you, awesome. It's an incredible story. Everybody on stage is going, oh my God, because it's such an incredible, huge song, and then he sings Me and Bobby McGee. Those are the kind of evenings that those 5 people will never be back together again in history. And I've done so many of those. And when everybody's just like that, they are so loose and fun. Like I said, there's no press. I mean, 1 year Vince came out in a jogging suit. I mean, it was like, you can wear whatever you want. We don't care. And we just tried to pop and everything. So those are the kind of things that, to me, are incredible, incredible shows. As a fan, to go listen to Elton and Billy together on stage, or to go listen to Queen. I'm a huge Queen fanatic, and Adam Lambert is just beyond a great singer. So I'm a fan. I'm no longer an agent, even though we book them. And Adam's a friend of mine.
You turn into fangirl.
Yeah,
I love it.
You just sit there, and every song is this incredible anthem. And it's a 3-hour show, like the old days, Bruce, where the guitar player had a 20-minute solo and the drummer had a 10-minute solo.
Oh yeah. And then the flute player had a 20-minute solo.
I mean, it's just like, it's that kind of stupid things, but those to me are the most memorable evenings in my life. I mean, there are times, again, the first time I heard Leanne sing, I still think she's one of the greatest vocalists it's ever been. Her voice is incredible. Or to sit in a room and talk to McGraw when he's doing Live Like You Were Dying, or he's got Humble and Kind, or he's got all those incredible career songs. Those are when you kind of pinch yourself and go like, I can't believe I'm sitting here and I'm responsible for these people, but yet still they're so smart. And same with Taylor. Taylor has never varied. She knows exactly who she is, what she's going for. And that's the kind of stuff that I really look for. And I think, and there's a lot of incredible artists. I'm just saying those ones that I get to work with day in and day out, and then I go back to my dear friends of Joan Jett or Styx or REO Speedwagon, which just come out, play 90 minutes of hits and goes home, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And they're just, and they love every single day that they're playing.
Mm-hmm.
And the audience does too. I mean,
Yeah.
they've heard the songs 9 million times, but when REO, Styx, all of those acts come out and belt it out, people love it. They go home, they're happy.
And those acts, you don't worry about radio or anything. They call and say, thank you. Thank you so much for putting me on this. Thank you for working this. Thank you, Variety, for buying me year after year after year, you know, and put me in the different packaging. And that's so fun because they're at the age that they're just, and I think JY made a statement. I said, because he cut from 125 dates down to like 75 dates. And I said, JY, you know, you guys are still not that. He said, Rod, I have plenty of money. I don't want to lose my lifestyle. So I don't want to take out of my savings, but so if I work this many days, I know I could maintain a lifestyle and still have some time at home. And he's like 70 years old, you know?
Yeah. I want to go back, and I have two questions for you because I don't want to forget them. Is because you're a huge Queen fan, did you ever have the opportunity to meet Freddie Mercury? And
I
then,
never did.
Oh, okay.
Horrible. I did. I said a couple times I've gone, and I was never an Elvis fan, but Colonel Parker was a friend of mine.
Oh,
Like, as crazy as it sounds, I know I met him and we became friends. I never was a big Elvis fan. I was a huge Beatles fan. I got to see the Beatles.
Oh, that's
The
outstanding.
only one I did go, I went with Bill Graham because I was selling stuff to Bill Graham. I went with Bill Graham and saw the Grateful Dead. I'm telling you, it was the longest evening of our entire life. The show went on for like 5 hours. I was going, I mean, I'm not a jam band guy at all. So it's like, I just went, but I was with Bill Graham. So it was still fun, but still, that's a long night. You know?
Yeah. And you know what? That 5 hours was one song.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're totally right. It was just like on and on. So, I mean, you know, so that was always the fun things, but some of those things, but I made my kids go to see Pink Floyd. I've made my kids go see different things saying someday you'll remember this, you know, or Coldplay or things like that. But as a rule, I never got to see Freddie at all. And I had times to do it, but you know, you never expect him to pass away. And
Correct.
he's always going to be there, you know. And I don't hesitate now. Once a year, I would go see Willie, you know, and Willie, we book Willie, but he's a friend. And but I'll still just go see him once a year, just because I don't know how long that's going to last.
Right.
You know,
do you have any good memories, good experiences? I'm sure you do, of Taylor Swift.
Oh yes, I have a ton of Taylor Swift. I'll tell you, the one thing is that remember she had a big song called Tim McGraw. And I said to Taylor and to Tim, now Tim for a while was like, why is she singing about me? I'm not old enough. And I said, well, the age difference of you and George Jones is the same as Taylor and Tim McGraw. And he's one of your idols. Okay. So in the meantime, but I told Taylor, you will never see Tim McGraw and meet Tim McGraw until you sing to him on television. And the first time she met Tim McGraw, she sang Tim McGraw on the ACM show. She walked down, remember, and sang Tim McGraw to Tim and Faith. I wanted it to be a big moment. And I knew that would be a television moment because that song was going up the charts and Tim's a big star. So at that point, that was one I remembered. The other one, I sat down and I talked to Irv Woolsey, and Taylor was 16 years old. And how do you make a huge statement on a 16-year-old? Because 16-year-olds, remember, in country music, sorry guys, in country music cannot, my motorcycle ring, I'm sorry, I'm a big biker.
Like we don't know that.
So anyway, so
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
So anyway, so that one, Irv Woolsey, how do you make a statement? You make a statement when you got a 16-year-old. They're not allowed to sing about beer drinking and lovemaking and da 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 da. So I have Taylor Swift open up for George Strait. The youngest kid opened up for the king of country. Huge statement. So
I bet
that,
she was so nervous.
oh, she was. She
Oh,
was.
yeah.
So then we take that another step. Another year later, now she's 17 years old, and Kenny Chesney wants her. She's getting hotter and hotter and hotter. Wants her on the tour. So we booked the tour. Comes back that Corona is his sponsor. Corona says you can't have a minor on your tour.
Yeah.
So we had to get her off that tour, and she went and found another tour that year. But that was, some of those moments of, again, but I'm going to say this, Kenny Chesney gave her a check for $100,000. Said, I'm so sorry you can't be on my tour.
Mm.
He said, oh, no. Some of these stories are so behind the scene that you just, people don't know about them. But that was just an incredible moment also.
Mm-hmm.
And just, there's just a lot of things like that that go on that never get written about. And the one thing about Taylor, does so many things about kids, stops at children's hospitals and that no one ever knows how much she does for that. And daily, she also has a big thing. She handwrites every note to radio guys. So on your birthday, I still get a handwritten note from Taylor and say happy birthday. And she handwrites. Everybody has handwritten notes from Taylor Swift.
Nice.
Now, Bruce, were you there when the year that we had her at the fair? I had her at the fair convention.
No.
Okay, because
I don't think so.
We used to do our dinners, and I had one dinner one night with half the people, then Stan would have another dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And Taylor Swift, when she was just starting out, was at those dinners. I was introducing Taylor Swift to all the buyers. And I remember the kids from Paso Robles and Ron Pateras and some all sitting. I remember sitting at the table with Taylor Swift, and nobody knew it. You're introducing her to all you guys as buyers.
Yeah. And I remember those dinners, and I'm trying to think back. I would have remembered if I met Taylor Swift at one of those. I've met a lot of other great artists, like Dan and Shay and, Drake White and Runaway June and a lot of them that were at those dinners, but I do not remember Taylor Swift, unfortunately.
Tell us a good, one of your good fair stories, because you've booked just hundreds and hundreds of fair acts. Do you have any good fair stories?
I booked some good fair stories. The one, let's see, I got to go back. It's really changed now, but in the old days when you had Sonny Simmons and Hap Peoples and everything, I do remember one on George. I got a call, and I think it was from Tim McGraw's people saying, I said, how was everything? He said, oh, the show was great. The catering, Rod. I said, what do you mean the catering? He said, it was box lunches. And I said, oh, we're supposed to have hot meals. I said, it wasn't hot. And they said, okay, then. So I remember calling and talking to Todd. I mean, I talked to George and Phyllis and said, you guys got to up your game. Oh, Rod, next year we'll take care of next year. We understand that. But it's just a lot of money. We have to get our fares used to spending that money. And I went, okay, great. But I said, we're moving into these things. But when I first started, this is in 1993 at CAA. CAA never returned a phone call to a fair. Never. In those days, you had the 15 huge promoters. So every promoter had a territory. And all they did was tour their acts. So when I got there, it was like me being in a candy store with the clients that they had for the varieties and for Bob Romeo's and so they're now allowed to buy all these big clients because the agents there didn't want to deal with one-off fairs and festivals and that kind of stuff. So anyway, that was really a base of why they brought me over, was to deal with the fairs and festivals and understand where they were coming from.
Because you saw the value in it then, right? I mean, did they not just see the value in that?
They didn't. Again, it's New York and LA. They're a different breed. It was too much work for them to talk and figure out where Fargo, North Dakota is. If it didn't have a big building or something like that, they were not going to deal with it. And they only want to talk to someone and give them shit if it wasn't right. I saw how important Ames, Iowa was, or how important Des Moines, Iowa was, or how important, the New York State fairs and all these fairs, because otherwise these big acts would never go there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and in those days, the only thing, to this day in Wyoming, the only thing to do in a big arena is the Cheyenne Frontier Days. There's 22,000 seats. The biggest arena in Wyoming is 6,000 seats.
Mm.
But it's too close to Denver, so they're just bypassed all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, their rundown this year's got Garth Brooks and everything because it's 22,000 seats. So there's a lot of fairs that are the same way. They're in a market. Paso Robles, you're 3 hours from San Francisco and 3 hours from LA, and there's a whole bunch of people that don't want to drive to those markets. So you know something, and they pay up to $1 million a show in a market that's 35,000 people.
Wow,
that's crazy.
Speaking of fairs, because those are usually the places that you get the most interesting situations, can you share with us maybe one or two meet and greet, either great experience or just what the F is going on here with this guy?
John Cougar Mellencamp played one fair in his one event, and he played the Cheyenne Frontier Days. And I said in the contract, and again, his manager said, Rod, you must be at that event. John's never played it. And Randy's from New York. Randy shows up in $300 pair of tennis shoes, white tennis shoes. Okay.
Oh, whoops.
White tennis shoes.
That's a mistake.
Yeah.
And he gets out of the car and he goes, what's this smell? And I said, it's shit. What do you expect? This is the rodeo. You know? He goes, oh, John's going to be so upset. I said, Randy, John has cattle. He's in Indiana on a farm. He understands. I said, my dad used to call it honey, you know, because fertilizer was the best thing out to put out in the field, you know. So in the meantime, so John shows up, and I said, he's got to do a meet and greet. He's got to get his belt buckle, you know. They all give belt buckles.
Yep.
And I said, all it's going to be is just the board. And at that point, the governor was there and someone else. So then he gave him his belt buckle. And afterwards he goes, oh my God, who was I meeting? You know? And I said, well, you got to meet the board. They're paying you. And they paid you a lot of money and everything like that. But he was just going, okay, I'm not doing it again. He's never done another fair since then. He didn't like it. He loved the crowd. He didn't like all the stuff around it. And he would rather go play small arenas and be done with it than play fairs.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I was nervous because there are clients, and you guys know, that are easy, and there's clients that are difficult. And so anyway, when you get a difficult one, the day is not pleasant.
We know that.
Yes.
And you just kind of avoid booking them again on those things.
Yes.
Yes.
Because I remember when we had an experience with John Cougar Mellencamp, you couldn't look at him. It was like, if you look at him, you're looking at Medusa and you're going to turn to stone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is my really fun one. Is I booked the Houston Rodeo Show, Paso Robles, and Cheyenne on Cardi B 3 years ago. Hot. She's hotter than ever. And I went to every single board and said, understand, if you're going to be offended, don't come tonight. There is not a G show. This was in Houston. I said, you got 75,000 tickets sold. Every one of the kids there have got her record and know every single word.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in turn, I said, so if you're going to be offended, don't come to the show tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So then I went around, and I also, luckily, I said, okay, she's foul, pretty foul. And I said, Jason's going, we can't ever swear too much. So I said, we'll try and stop that. So I went and paid the sound engineer. Now, I've never been to Houston. Houston's in the middle of the stadium, and there's probably 100 yards of nothing. It's just dirt, because they don't allow anybody on the dirt. And then there's 75,000 people in the stadium. So anyway, I said, every time you know the show, and he said, I said, every time you know she's going to say the F word or something like that, turn it down. Keep her monitors up, because no one hears the monitors. but just crank it down. So he did. I gave him $500. So he did that. And then we had signs all over the stage saying, you can't say this, you can't say that. Well, she did say the F word 12 times. They counted it and told me about it.
Well, that's not too bad for a whole show.
That's not bad.
But they looked the other way. And in Paso Robles, they did the same thing. The only complaint we got was from people that were not in the show that could hear the grandstand.
Oh, yeah.
Out in the carnival area. A couple ladies complained. But again, everybody sold out. So everybody made money. So they had to keep their mouth shut. But I mean, I just remember that with Wonderful Fairs, that it's got to be a G show. And I said, hold it. You bought them to be who they are.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the right to tell them what to play on stage. And I said, and I tell everybody, once they walk on stage, I am out of control. I have no control of anything on there. Because I remember Kid Rock, again at the Houston show, they said you can't say the F word. So he didn't. He told the audience that he was not allowed to say the F word. So every time he raised his hand, they could yell it.
Oh, that's good.
And he kept raising his hand all night long.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that. That's funny.
That was funny. You got a complaint from some women in the Midway about the F-bomb. Really? No F-bombs in the Midway are ever said?
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
Well, you guys go through that all the time. So I know you go through it. It's just a matter that, it's hard, but that's the kind of things. But again, I, as a rule, don't have anybody that doesn't love to be at the fairs. I put the chain smokers in fairs and they love it. They just go, we've never played a fair until a couple of years ago, and they love playing the fairs now. And they do meet and greets, and in fact, they'll end up in the afternoon going to the local hospital and seeing kids,
Nice.
just stuff like that. And they said that's something that they really love about us, is that we put them in all the situations.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Well, I wanted to talk to you about your love for riding motorcycles.
Oh,
So Harley Davidson or Indian? Which one do you like?
I'm
You
really
have both,
spoiled.
right?
I'm really spoiled. I have 2 Harleys and 1 Indian. And
Which do you like better?
today I like my Indian. I got my new one yesterday. It has 10 miles on it in my garage.
Nice.
Yeah. The problem is there's a guy here in town called that owns the Indian and the Harley store. And so anyway, he's my best friend. So that's a good thing and a bad thing.
Right.
So I'm really spoiled. My cars, I'm not a handy at all. So when I go down, all I want things to do is go, turn the key and it says go, and that's it. So in the meantime, I told Ricky, I don't even want to change the oil, change the tires. So both my bikes, Nori, I hand in with about 3,000 miles on them, and I get a new one. And I've never done change the oil or do it. Now I do have a 2003 Harley Davidson that is the 100th anniversary that was given to me by Willie G. Davidson. And for years I represented John K. and Steppenwolf. So Born to Be Wild was like, and then from them, Willie G. now is, I want to say he's 86 years old, but Bill and Karen, the whole family are all friends of mine. But he signed that and sent it to me. So it's got like probably 10,000 miles on it. That one I keep. I'll never change that over. I ride it a couple, maybe 1,000 miles a year and get it tuned up every year. But that is my yoga. That has been my sanity during this whole year. I mean, normally I'm on the road so much, so I'll put maybe 1,800, 2,000 miles on each of them. This year, my Indian had 4,300 miles on, and my Harley had 27. So every afternoon in the summertime, when you're on the phone going nowhere, I just get on my bike and go ride. And you're by yourself and no one's around you. And so it was just my saving grace. So
I agree with you. I'll jump in, and I have a 97 Dyna convertible, and it definitely is my zen, because when I do ride it, it kind of takes you away from everything. And I do have 2 great, and that was going to be probably our question to you, is with any of your acts, have you ever had a great experience with them, with your motorcycle? Because I have 2 instances. I'm going to just say real quick, because we want to listen to what you have to say. But one experience was when I worked for a record label here in Milwaukee. One of our artists was Tony Levin, who is bass player for Peter Gabriel. and he rode his Softail from New York to Milwaukee, and we went to the 95th anniversary here in Milwaukee together. Now going anywhere with Tony Levin is like you're going somewhere with Jesus Christ himself. My second one was when I booked a promo tour with Craig Chiquiso, guitar player for Jefferson Starship. I flew out to San Francisco, and he told me to meet him at Golden Gate Harley Davidson. He rented a couple bikes, and he took me around San Francisco like nobody would before, showing me, oh, this is the house we recorded Red Octopus. This is where Grace Slick crashed her Aston Martin. It was a great experience, both of those, and I will never forget them. And they were on Harley Davidsons.
Well, Bruce, I remember being at Marcus Amphitheater in Milwaukee. Whenever I come to Milwaukee, my friends still, I stay at the Pfister, and my friends still make sure there's a motorcycle there for me. So they drop it off. So I've got that, and I love the Pfister. I mean, all the hotsy-totsy hotels there. I still love the Pfister. And
it's haunted, you know. It's haunted.
I know. I love that. and the bartender just retired last year from downstairs, and she'd make the greatest Bloody Marys in the morning. I mean, you know, and so, but in the meantime, you know, and Babish always wants me to stay in that new hotel down in the new area, whatever it is.
The Iron Horse.
The Iron Horse. That's it.
Is
that
Iron
pretty cool?
Yeah. And I go, no. I want the other one.
Pfister.
I walk down. So in the meantime, we were backstage, and I had my bike, and Harley brought a couple things, and Bill came down. It was Bill Davidson, and he and I, Keith Urban, and Chuck, his tour manager, we took off and went riding. And Keith used to carry two bikes on the road all the time because he put a helmet on. Nobody knew who he was. So you're not stuck behind stage.
Yeah.
And I remember we took off and went up by the lake and we stopped and had lunch. And we walked in this place to have lunch. Just a little place, just a little diner type. And we walked in there, and I think there was probably 4 people. And by the time we left, there was probably 40 people in there. They recognized Keith Urban, you know, and it was just that.
Not you?
No,
hey, it's Rod Essig.
not even Bill Davidson. Not even Bill.
Well, it is Keith
and
Urban.
Bill, I don't know if you know, Bill Davidson only rides a road king. Doesn't ride anything else but a road king. So that one, you know, and then there was years that Tim would carry 12 bikes, you know, a whole semi motorcycles on the road for the band and everybody else. So we go out and just, you know, I'd go in and fly in, and we do rides. And I go to Sturgis. I didn't go last year, but pretty much before that, I'd go for almost 15 years. And I'm, again, back to really being spoiled. I go out, I fly out first class. Somebody picks you up at the airport. I go to the demo fleet on either Harley or Indian, get a bike, stay up in Deadwood, see my clients for 2 or 3 days, ride during the days, and then fly home. So I didn't want to, riding across North and South Dakota to me is like, I might as well go across my kitchen floor because it's so
right. Yeah.
You know, and I just went, I'm not going to ride that long to do a ride. It's not that important to me, but I do love going out there. And I've got ZZ Top there this year. I got a lot of people back. I do a lot of stuff with, well, and that one with Brad Coombs, and then with Woody, you know, at Buffalo Chip. So we have pretty much the majority. In fact, last year I still had 4 acts on it when no one was supposed to go. I had, you know, a bunch of the small acts were all playing it last year.
Well, since we're talking about Sturgis and Rod Essig and how spoiled he is, do you have a good debauchery story at Sturgis? I'm sure you do.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
The first year I went, Woody's saying, you know, there's a bike parade at 6:00, and I went and I said, I gotta be over there for the bike parade. I show up, go to the bike parade. There is nothing but naked people on motorcycles. That's the whole parade. And I hate to say,
parade.
Pardon?
A naked parade.
Naked parade. They're just riding in a circle, all naked. And at that point, I think a lot of the women should have put their teeth back in before they show their breasts. You know, in the meantime, I learned not to ever go to the bike parade again. And then that also, one year I was there, and in not the days of the iPhones, when they had the little cameras that you take X amount of something. Well, unbeknownst to me, Brad grabbed the Coombs and took a whole bunch of pictures of all the girls on top of
Oh, of course.
guys' shoulders.
Mhm.
I never thought anything about it. I gave it to my wife to send this in. Naked pictures of, that she gets back and she's, oh, I guess you really did have a good time.
Oh my God.
So
I just have one question. Okay, so Naked Parade on Harleys,
yes,
that engine gets pretty warm.
yes, it does.
Mm.
I will tell you though, the plus of Sturgis 2 years ago, the age group, now I think I've gotten much older, but the age group seems to have gotten much younger.
Oh, phew.
Woo, that's good.
That's a relief.
Thank goodness.
I don't know if there's a thing called the Full Throttle Saloon.
Mhm.
Have you ever gone to Sturgis?
Not yet.
It's a huge, like you're in Milwaukee, Quonset building. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And you can hold 15, 16,000 people. But to park, you have to drive through the bar. You have to drive through the building. So there's people drinking on both sides, and the bikes are going back and forth on the bikes. It is an open Quonset. It's only open during the rally. That's all it's open. I'm telling you, it looks like everything they ever bought to decorate it was from a junkyard. I mean, it's old buses and all that kind of stuff just sitting out there that has a bar on it. Well, anyway, that one has the bartenders are all women with pasties and G-strings. Well, anyway, the
That's
one
horrible.
year, the one year, this is crazy. So we were drinking there, and we were drinking at the bar, and anyway, the one girl said, she said, so when I do this for the 2 weeks every year, and I go back and I live in Nashville, and so I gave her my card and I said, if you ever want a job, well, she still works for me.
Oh, that's awesome. Great.
And you're loved. She still takes the 2 weeks off a year because she makes between $2,500 and $3,000 a day.
Dang.
Oh no.
Where was that gig when I was in college?
You can still do it.
The majority of the people that they get are mainly just college kids from Florida, whatever. They know someone, but they make a ton of money. It's just, you just basically throw your money up and they give you some drink and that's it. It's not, but that I remember, and it burned down about 5 years ago, and the guy just put another Quonset building up and went to another junkyard and bought all this stuff. The bars, the bar are a 2x6. That's all they are.
Hey, there's people that go see the giant ball of string.
Yeah.
So so a bar that's just a hood of a car, that's really no big deal.
Right.
It's crazy. I always feel sorry for the people that take their family vacation to go see the Faces that week.
Yeah.
Because it's 600,000 bikers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad goes religiously every year. My dad takes his Harley out and goes every year. And
it's my fishing trip. I go with my same 3 or 4 guys, and we just go, and and luckily, Mark Oswald owns a hotel out there, and so anyway, we stay at his place up in Deadwood. I love Deadwood, and it's got good food, and we ride the same rides every year.
Once and the year. Naked Parade.
No, I gave that up. No.
Okay.
We don't show up now until 9 o'clock because the first show goes on at 9:30. One time in my life that was enough. We don't do that, but still, it's I just love looking at all the bikes. I think the bikes are just kind of what people. I'm a biker. I'm a yuppie biker. So are you, Bruce? I'm not.
Yep.
There's people that just their whole life is riding a bike.
Yeah, I'm fair weather biker.
Yeah. I don't ride if it's 60 degrees and colder. I don't ride if it's raining. I don't ride if, I love it. And I can't say that I down here, there's a couple of really biker bars. I'm so out of place when I walk in those places. I just go, no. I'm much better going to Bricktops with my bike in the parking lot than I'm going to a biker bar. But I'm so glad there are people that do that,
So then, being a yuppie biker, have you ever done the Tail of the Dragon in Tennessee?
Yes, I have.
Me too. That's a crazy one. Great? It's nuts.
Oh my God. Well, now they close it down one day a year and let people race.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you just go down, But in the meantime, no, I've gone from the pretty ride is here to go to Bristol and then take the Blue Ridge Mountain Parkway and go down to Asheville.
Mm-hmm.
And then from Asheville, go do the Tail of the Dragon and end up in Chattanooga and then come home the next day.
Oh,
so it's a great 4-day or three nights, 4-day ride of just, I mean, Asheville, the Blue Ridge Mountain Parkway is just magnificent on the motorcycle. I've done everything except the Northeast. I've done riding. One of my bucket lists was riding from Fort Lauderdale out to Key West and back. There was water on each side. I've done that. We went and did the Grand Canyon and did that whole thing. But again, talk about how yuppie we are. We ride for 2 or 3 days and then we spa for a day and then we ride again, you know.
And when you ride for a day, it's only a couple hours.
Oh, no, we don't do more than 250 miles. I mean, that's it. Coming to Milwaukee, though, for the Hardy events, we go from here to St. Louis. That's 420 miles. And then, but then we stay at the Four Seasons. It's really nice. But then we go to Davenport, Iowa, and stay at the Riverboat or whatever it is, and then come into Milwaukee.
Are there like a couple at the top of your list that you remember that you took an artist when they were playing some hole in the wall and you really developed that artist to where they are today? And you're like really proud of that.
Well, I can say I signed Leanne Rimes at 11 years old and I signed Tim McGraw. Tim McGraw, I signed Joe Diffie and Tim McGraw together. And Tim McGraw's never had another agent, so we're together 28 years right now. In the company, Keith Urban has been with us for 26 years, and Martine has been with me for 26 years. So taking her all the way through her time. So and the one that started way back with Variety Artists was I've been with Olivia Newton-John in and out of her life. When I say for 40 some years.
Out of all the acts that you've worked with, do you have a couple that had quirky, goofy, unusual, what the heck kind of rituals that they would do before a show, after a show, during a show?
I remember Reba would be talking to you and I and walk out on stage and just sing. Same with Martina. I remember Leanne Rimes would basically get sick always before the show. Just get a stomach ache, right? I don't know, I'm not feeling good. Walk out and just nail it. Tim McGraw is like a thoroughbred. 30 minutes before the show backstage, he is just up and down the halls, and he used to run 4 miles and come and take a shower and then go on stage.
Wow.
But he's just got that adrenaline going. And then he goes out and performs for 2 hours. You know, quirkiness, it's just, they're all different. You know, Hart, Ann and Nancy, I've been with them 20 years. Ann and Nancy have, they start at 5 o'clock into this vibey thing, putting their makeup on and eating dinner and talking. And no one, that's sacred time. You don't go in, you don't do anything, and they walk on stage at 9:15, 9:30 and just do a 2-hour show.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, this was great, Rod.
I'm going to say I'm sad that you're not wearing your tiger embroidered Gucci tie. Because last time I saw you in Nashville, I was like, oh my gosh, what kind of tie is that? And you were like, well, this is my fancy tiger embroidered tie.
This is a gift from my wife, so I wouldn't figure out how much it cost.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well,
next time, this fall when I see you in Nashville.
I have a new one.
Oh,
she gave me a new one.
Don't tell me.
I have 2 Gucci's now.
Okay.
But in the meantime, you know something, guys? This is the first time I've had a collared shirt on for a long time. So I'm changing it. I actually put a collar on. So bottom line is, I still got shorts on and that kind of stuff. So we're not going to open the office right now until at least July, but more than likely August.
Yeah. You don't have to put a collar on for us.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
You could have you could keep your Harley Davidson lounge pants on and your t-shirt, live to ride, and the whole thing for us.
Well, I went and made up. I again, with all the swag, my next 2 doors down from me he makes swag and shirts. So he made me Essig on tour, an Indian emblem under. So I always wear really bright neon shirts because I figured I want people to see me.
See me, yeah.
Right.
And so I always wear them. So anyway, he made me t-shirts up that says Essig on tour, Indian,
Nice.
Nice.
I like that.
And so anyway, I walk into the Indian dealer. I said, "Don't shoot me. I don't have this trademarked," but
That's funny.
Well, hey,
Yeah.
Rod, I appreciate your time.
Mhm.
Justine and I loved having you on our podcast.
Good luck. I hope it comes out with what you wanted. That's all. Well, you guys are easy to talk to. So thank you.
Well, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Rod.
Appreciate it.
And we'll see you
Okay.
soon.
You gonna go
You-
riding today? Is it nice?
I am. It's right now. It's 74 degrees out.
Oh, shit.
Oh no, yesterday was 78. It was great.
Yeah.
And Sunday's going to be like 76. So I'm probably for sure
Oh.
Sunday.
Yeah. Here it's 38.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freaking cold.
Yeah, it's cold.
Yeah.
I
so,
remember those days from Minnesota.
Mhm.
All right, Rod. Thank you very
Take
much for
care.
your
Thank
time.
you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us backstage, and visit Justine and I at varietyattractions.com.
Get your backstage pass and subscribe wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Which Way Is Catering with Justine and Bruce, served up by Variety Attractions, celebrating 60 years of entertainment excellence.
Find out how you can take advantage of their expertise in consulting, talent buying, production, and marketing services for your next event at varietyattractions.com.